Ladies and gentlemen, in this information age, all of us want to be very much aware of what is going on around us. We want to stay up to date with all of the events that are happening in our world. This may be for work reasons, or it may simply be to stay up to date with friends. But either way, we all want to know what's going on. But in order to understand what is going on now, it is very important to look at the past. It is essential to understand history in order to understand the present. Because, after all, as the saying goes, those who do not know history are condemned to repeat it. In order to avoid falling into this trap, therefore, I would like to take a look at society and politics from a historical point of view. I would like to take a quick look at what led to the current political setup we have, and I would like to look at how one particular modern political structure was formed: the state. Human beings need to live in society. This is something deep within the nature of all of us. If a man or a woman tries to live alone, they will soon find that this is practically impossible. As a matter of fact, the reason why human beings have been so successful as a race is down to the fact that we are able to live with others and cooperate in order to achieve shared aims. However, in order for people to live in a society, individuals have to find a way of organizing themselves. They need to divide up the workload and know which task corresponds to which person. Individuals have to take responsibility for certain tasks while being aware of which tasks are being carried out by others. This means that the members of society have to agree beforehand on the best way of doing things. This is what people living in ancient times did when the first civilizations were created. And this is how societies and civilizations began to grow. At a later stage, when societies became considerably larger, it became necessary to find someone to look after the needs of the group, meaning that there was a need for someone to take charge. The members of a society also had to carry out tasks for the good of the group. For example, irrigation systems had to be built and maintained. There needed to be people who would deal with the upkeep of roads, and the community had to be defended against outside enemies. This is how soldiers, governors, and public workers appeared for the first time. As these members of society started to develop their respective roles, others were dividing up work in other ways. Specific tasks were carried out by different members of society in order to work for the common good. For example, farmers, builders, miners, blacksmiths, etc. In addition to all of these aspects, one necessary element of a society is a set of rules that is accepted by everybody. Having one clear set of rules which all citizens abide by ensures that no one individual is able to rule by military force alone. This set of rules outlines what is allowed and what is not. Rules also recognize and safeguard certain rights. They establish the limits of the freedom of each individual. These rules, when they first appeared, were effectively the first laws. The power to force people to comply with these laws remained in the hands of a small group, and these people were those who ruled over the rest. This group had authority over the people. At this stage in history, societies had begun to follow an organized structure within a defined territory. They had a set of rules and an authority which applied and enforced them. This meant that the basics of a state had been formed. The authority within a state has to be sovereign within its territory. This means that no other power can rule over it. The forms that this authority has taken over the centuries has varied greatly and continues to vary today. Just to give a few examples, sovereign authority has existed in the form of a democracy, a dictatorship, or an absolute monarchy. Each one of these has led to a different type of state taking shape. One example of a type of state that existed many centuries ago is that of the ancient Greeks. They organized themselves in terms of city-states. The most important of these were like sovereign states in themselves. Many of them had a system of government which was independent from the other city-states in the surrounding area. Of all the city-states, the most interesting setup to look at is that of Athens. In this city, every citizen participated in decision-making. They would meet up in the public square and discuss problems. The result of the discussions would be that a number of solutions were put forward. Then each individual would vote on the solution which he thought was most suitable. With this system, the Greeks had created democracy. The word democracy itself means the rule of the people, and it was coined in about the 4th or 5th century BC. In this system, there was no sovereign ruler who could rule over everyone else. Rather, all citizens were considered equal when it came to taking a decision on shared issues. However, full equality did not exist, of course, because women and children were not considered citizens, and therefore could not participate in politics. Another very different model was the feudal state. This was a characteristic of the Middle Ages. At this time there were many small kingdoms, each one ruled by a king or a member of the nobility. These rulers had limited power, however. They constantly had to establish alliances with their own vassals. Vassals were feudal lords that lived within the lands ruled over by the king. The king would have to ask the vassals to defend their kingdoms, and in exchange the vassals would be given a certain amount of power. The feudal system benefited some more than others, of course. The nobility and clergy lived in better conditions than most of the commoners, for example. The representatives of these two groups would meet up in a court or assembly each time the king needed to ask them for something. This mostly happened when the king needed to ask for money or for soldiers, for example. The power of the king was, therefore, limited, since he was forced to rely upon the authorization of the court in order to carry out many of his initiatives. So, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, you can see how states started to take shape in early times. I would like to continue explaining how the modern nation-state, as we know it today, was formed. We could look at examples of Germany and Italy in particular, and also the United Kingdom. However, seeing as there is no time left for now, we'll have to leave that for another day. Thank you.